Starting recording. We are recording now. Okay. So tell me a bit about yourself, Ben.
Yeah, so my name is Ben Inman. I am one of the three choir boys. We kind of came to fame, I guess, back in 2006. We were kind of a choir boy band is what the press used to describe us. And yeah, we were just basically three choir boys made up of two different cathedral choirs, and we kind of, just came to fame in a whirlwind very quickly and managed to tour the UK and abroad. And just it was a really weird, wild experience.
So how did it come about? How do you get chosen to be in the Choir Boys?
So basically, we were kind of headhunted, I guess. The record label Universal Classics and Jazz were doing kind of countrywide, talent search, I guess, for their boy band. And because there were only three of us, they were kind of going around, I think it was like 50 or 60 different cathedrals and interviewing loads of different people. And I was one of three boys, I think it was, from Minster, which is where I was a choir boy. And we sang for the guy that eventually would be he was one of the kind of head guys at Universal Classics, the record label, and of him and a few other people came into where we used to sing like daily. It was called the Song Room, and we sang a range of different pieces individually, and they heard us. Anyway, after a couple of days, the guy from the record label rang my mum in the phone whilst on the phone whilst we were kind of in the car. So she pulled over to one side and she answered it, and it was the guy from the record label. And they basically said, we'd like to offer you a place in the Choir Boys. So that's kind of how it came about. And it was really kind of out of the blue, because up until that point, I'd just been singing, something like, I don't know, like tens of hours a week with the choir, but it was all very local. And, there was not really anything that I was doing that was kind of out of the ordinary. I was just kind of singing and enjoying my singing.
So would you just join the choir? Was it your choice, or was it more of your parents' choice?
So it was more my parents' choice, I guess. Basically, I lived in Yorkshire until I was 8 years old, and then we moved to Nottinghamshire when I was 8. My dad got a new job. It was based in, I think, it was based around Nottingham or like Lincoln or somewhere like that. So it was Midlands based. So we moved from Yorkshire to the Midlands. And when I was in primary school, I used to, this is what my parents had told me, that I used to like really enjoy kind of doing like random singing and stuff. And I was in like the primary school panto or something like that. I can remember in my head, like I had this role. It was called the Merry Ferryman, like super weird role. But I remember just kind of doing that, and it was like
it was school play or something?
School play, like random school play. I got a random role, like everyone does. They always get given like a random role. So I got this role, the Merry Ferryman, and it was it was good, and I enjoyed it. I think enough that my mum was like, okay, he really enjoys this for some reason. Like, let's explore this when we move to Nottinghamshire, because he's going to need to make friends. And like, I mean, looking back on it now, I mean, there was two roles really. Either I'd have gone into sports and joined loads of clubs, or different. And my mum was like, okay, well, let's just do the singing thing. So she went with that, I think. And I think it's because, I don't know, I must have enjoyed it enough for them to be like, this is going to be a good thing. And also the place we were moving to had a renowned, like obviously, it's quite a small market town, Southall, in Nottinghamshire.
What was it called?
So it's called Southall Minster Choir, was the choir, right?
Okay.
But so Southall Minster was the building, and because it's a small market town, the actual minster itself is massive comparatively to the actual town. So it's quite like a big thing in terms of the local community, I guess.
Okay. So as I say, like when in the choir, how many people were in it?
In terms of choristers, like throughout my time, there were probably about, I think it was like 8 aside, so it was like 16 choristers and then I think 6 men, so about 22 people.
Okay, so how many times would you perform during 1 week, for instance?
Okay, well, as part of the actual choir, I mean, basically what we did was we sang at the services in the Minster, so it would range, obviously, and most of the weekdays we'd sing a service called Evensong, and basically that there's a range of different pieces, but it would typically comprise like an introit, psalms, responses, a Magnificat, and Nunc Dimittis, and then an anthem. So it'd be something like 5-6 pieces per service. And then, like, let's say that was on a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a Thursday, a Friday, a Saturday, and a Sunday. And then on a Sunday, we'd have a morning service as well. And then, and then we had a practice like every morning of the week.
That's pretty hectic, yeah. So how did you fit that in with your school life and stuff like that? So how old were you when this came about?
So I was 8. I started that when I was 8.
You was 8 years old. So how did you manage to fit that in with like your schoolwork and stuff like that?
Well, we sang. We had a practice before school every day. The practice would start at 8 o'clock, and then we'd get to school for like 10 to 9, and then we'd go to school from like obviously 9 till 3:30, and then we went to an after school club, which was like run by the choir people, and then that lasted till probably like 4:15, I think. Then we went to a rehearsal until about 5 o'clock. We sang a service at 5 until like half six, something like that. So yeah,
you had like a pretty packed out fucking schedule for an 8-year-old. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it was intense. I mean, it's a very unusual like childhood in a lot of ways, because whether you're religious or not, it's just a lot of time to spend doing one thing. So it meant that everyone that did it got good at certain skills like music or like just in general. I mean, it was very informative at a young age, and intense, very intense.
I can imagine. But so talk to me about like your first day, like when you signed for the Chiorboys. Like, what was like your first? How did you? Who are the other two members? I know it's Patrick, and who's the other guy?
CJ. So yeah.
CJ. So yeah. So talk me about your first day when you got to meet the other two people.
Okay. Yeah. So, it's such a long time ago now, but basically, we met when we went down to London. I think one of the first things we did was, like rehearsing for the album. So when we recorded the album, one of the first things we did was we met up before that, and obviously started rehearsing as like a trio. And so the first day I remember going in the car, like there was a chauffeur that kind of turned up at my house in Nottinghamshire.
Really?
So it was like out Chrysler, turned up on the drive one morning. And the next thing I got into this Chrysler and I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but let's roll with this. So I got into this Chrysler, I don't know if you remember, but basically like around about 10, 15 years ago, like those blacked out 4x4 Chryslers, it's before like 4x4s became like a massive thing. Like there was like 4x4 Chryslers that people were using to basically chauffeur people around. And that was the first time I ever got one of them. And it appeared on my drive at like, I don't know, 6 a.m. or something like that.
What was going through your head when you saw it there? Like, so you must think like this. Someone sent this car to my address. Like, this must be a big deal.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, I was just like, this is weird. Obviously, there's someone on the drive. Like, is this safe, sort of thing? And then obviously, slowly I realised that when I got in the back of it, that it was for me and my parents, I guess at the time, or my mum or something like that. And we then drove to London in that, and it was super like intense to begin with, because obviously it's the first time you've done it. It's a weird experience. And then it was like from Nottinghamshire, it was maybe 3-hour drive, something like that, 3.5-hour drive down to London. And then we met for rehearsals for the first day, and it was weird because the other two guys were from the same place. They were from Ely Cathedral, and they already knew each other. They'd known each other since they'd started in their choir. So they started in their choir obviously at 8, the same age as me. That's when choruses normally start. And then by the time we got to the Chiorboys, I was like 12, 13. CJ was probably 10, I think, 10 or 11, and then Patrick was same age as me. So interesting. It was quite intimidating because obviously I knew that the other two boys were like from the same place.
Yeah, but did you realise like, how big it was going to be? Like when you on this first day, did you realise how much of a big deal it was? No,
not at all. Literally, I think that's partly why I was kind of so unfazed by it for a lot of it, was that I had no I never even imagined that something like this could have happened. And I thought, well, it's just going to be like turning up, doing a few songs, whatever. They'll record it. That's fine.
See what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, when that happened, I went down there, recorded the album, and then met the other two guys. And then I thought, we'd do that. That would kind of be it. Like, obviously, the press started going a bit mad as soon as they started to promote the album, because I think it was around Christmas time, or just before Christmas time, and they obviously started hyping up towards like Christmas, and then as we discussed before, there was obviously a lot about the sales of the album as well, and like it just kind of took off and off and off and off, and then we ended up, it just kind of skyrocketed really.
So I'm going to say to you now. So what I've read on the internet, the Chiorboys, on your first week of your album, it sold 100,000 copies in the first week.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. And apparently that's like I've looked on now, researched. Apparently that's still the record of the fastest UK selling classical album of all time.
Right. Well, I hadn't researched it, recently, so that's amazing. Well, yeah, that's insane then, because I remember it at the time being the fastest selling classical album of all time, and it was a whirlwind, because I remember people saying, like, we had representatives from the record label, and I remember them saying to us, you've sold 100,000 in a week, and we were like, we didn't really know what that meant at all. We had no idea. It was just kind of like, we've sold a few albums, that's cool, sort of thing.
That's like crazy, like that.
Yeah.
How did you react to that? Like, did your parents, did you obviously don't know at the time the magnitude of that? 100,000 albums sold in 1 week. That's huge.
No, I mean, we didn't really know, to be honest, how big that was, because obviously you always hear about pop stars and everything like that, and like all these really famous people selling like millions of albums. So to us, it wasn't really a big thing. But obviously, when it says like the fastest selling classical album of all time, that was obviously pretty big, because there's obviously a lot of really famous classical artists. And I mean, it hit me a little bit when we were on Blue Peter, and I think it's on YouTube actually.
I think I remember.
Yeah, and then the next thing, like they turned up with these, like with the gold discs with like the red backgrounds, and I remember that very vividly. That we received.
Is that when you realised, like, holy shit, like this is a big deal now?
Yeah, exactly, man. It just kind of became more and more of a big deal. I mean, that day was, interesting, because I think that was shot at like one of the BBC studios, obviously where Blue Peter was filmed, and when you're there filming for stuff like that, you do tend to see, other famous people, I guess. I mean, I definitely do not consider myself or ever thought of myself as a famous person, because I was just a young kid, like no one knew who I was, or I didn't have any sway or anything, and so it was just kind of something that I did.
You were famous when you were younger, for sure. Because I remember the most people. I'm 26 years old. You're 28. Most people were our age gap remember the advert, obviously the Chiorboys.
Yeah.
And everyone remembers the songs. So it is kind of a big deal, and obviously the amount of records you sold. And talk to me about, because another thing I read on the internet, you signed a £500,000 recording deal. Is that true?
Yeah. So in terms of the truth of that, I mean, whether or not the record label, made a load of money from us, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to say, but in the paper it was widely like documented that it was $500,000 record deal and that sort of stuff, and that Alan Jones is our manager and all this sort of stuff. In terms of how true that is, who knows? I mean, what I will say is that a lot of any of the money that was made by the Chiorboys was either made by the record label or kind of, was donated. Because for a lot of the Chiorboys, we wore like a green badge. I'm not sure if you ever saw it, but we wore a green badge on our suits, and that was for like NSPCC. There may have been some money that went to them. That's what we kind of understood. But yeah, I mean, whether or not it was 500K deal, I don't know. But I definitely didn't receive like a third of that, for instance, if that was true. So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. See, was there any kind of deal that you did? Was there any kind of contract that you did sign, for instance, before you joined the Chiorboys?
So I don't remember ever physically signing a contract, but I think because we were so young,
it was your parents, right?
Yeah, it would have been our parents that signed the contracts.
Okay, so so in terms of like finances, like did you receive a lot of money? I'm not going to ask exactly how much, but did you receive a lot of money at a young age, or did your parents look after the money? What kind of happened with that?
Yeah, so in terms of that sort of side of things, we never received personally like a load of money. In terms of kind of like royalties and stuff, we still receive royalties from the albums and stuff. The album that we made like a long time ago. But as you can imagine, with it being so long after that now, it's obviously like lessening, because not as many people are listening to Choir Boys nowadays. I mean, it's still
Yeah,
like a couple of times a year, there's like a decent payment that we get from Equity, which is obviously the artist representation body.
yeah. So like, yeah. So have you got enough? Did you make enough money from the Choir Boys to set yourself up for your future? Basically, that's what I'm trying to ask.
So, I mean, I'm comfortable right now.
Yeah,
You know, we live like very comfortably. I wouldn't say that it's the sort of thing where you couldn't ever work, and I'm not that sort of person either. Like I
yeah,
like work,
yeah,
and to me, I think it's important that you have like a purpose in life. So for me, like I'm working hard to kind of develop my career and kind of, move on and become my own person, because I don't want people. This is the thing. Whenever I meet people, I never, like nowadays, I never tell them anything about it. If they come to
yeah,
find out about the Choir Boys, then that's interesting. But it was a long time ago, so if the only thing I ever spoke to people about was telling them that I was in something a long time ago, people would just think I was a douche.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
There'd be no point.
is it harder for you to set goals because for now your age now you're 28? Is it harder for you to set goals now because you've already achieved so much? If you get what I'm saying?
Um, I don't know. Like I feel like maybe this is one of the things. I feel like I'm a very driven and focused person.
Yeah,
Obviously, everyone has drive, everyone has passions. I tend to kind of fixate on things. And I don't know if a lot of other people do this, but I fixate on things and I work hard at them to the point, to like an obsessive point sometimes. And I feel like maybe as a chorister, that's maybe what set me apart, was that whenever I was singing in the choir, whenever I was singing in services, it would be the point, like in my head, I was always thinking of how can I be better, how can I make this better, how can I
yeah,
make it sound better, like to the point where potentially like it made me come across as like maybe too passionate, too emotional about it, and whatever. But I've kind of taken that forward, since obviously my voice broke, and then onwards, through the rest of school and university and whatever.
yeah,
That those same qualities I still have for everything else that I do. I try to be the best that I can be, to the point where sometimes I do get obsessive with things, but I know for a fact that it hasn't stopped me setting goals or other things like that, because I just want to kind of keep improving, and for me, I always try to seek like that constant improvement.
yeah. So what are your goals now? What are you trying to aim towards now? Obviously, you achieved a lot when you were young.
Yeah.
So what are you aiming towards to be now?
Well, okay,
Still
so
within the music industry?
yeah, so not in music actually. So since I actually stopped singing, about this is a bit mental. I haven't really spoken to anyone about this. But basically I stopped singing about 2 or 3 years ago professionally. I was in
Yeah,
London freelancing as a tenor for a while. And that was mostly core stuff. My passion really is like early music, and that's music from kind of like the 1600s. So that's kind of more core based music, and that was in choirs. So that's stuff that I'd like to do. But basically, in terms of actual choral music itself, you can't really make like an amazing like living from that. I don't know. People might disagree with that if people were
yeah,
to watch this, but you can't really make like a load of money, and you reach a plateau, I guess. Like when you do end up reaching as top as it can get in that field, and there isn't really any further you can go. Kind of the furthest you can go is becoming like a recording artist, and then hopefully you sell enough and whatever. But again, that's something that I did when I was a chorister, and right now, basically, I'm training to be an accountant and a tax advisor,
okay,
which is
yeah,
kind of super left field. At the same
yeah.
time, I've just started up a business as well. So, and
Oh,
that's,
really? Okay, what's
yeah,
it called?
it's called Lavare. It's a candle company. It's something I'm doing on the side alongside training to be an accountant. Yeah.
Okay, my mum's an accountant, by the way.
Is she? Oh, sweet. Nice.
Yeah,
That's cool.
and she's done really badly at school as well. So there's definitely hope for anyone who wants to be an accountant out there. Don't worry.
Exactly.
But in terms of music, who was who influenced you when you were young?
In terms of music,
Yeah,
um, to be
we
honest,
don't judge either. There's no judge. There's no judgment. Be
no,
anyone.
no, yeah. In terms of like inspirations, when I was singing as a chorister, I wasn't really listening to any music because I was just constantly surrounded by it. So
Yeah,
I mean, that kind of that kind of meant that I wasn't. too like I wasn't basically listening to music in my own time because I was making music by singing. So I guess the people around me, like the choir director Paul Hale, basically in the choir that I was in
Yeah.
as he was the main inspiration for me singing, I guess.
Okay. So obviously, in terms of like the revenue generated by the album, how many albums did you release? Was it one or two?
So we released one. That was the first. That was the original Chiorboys. There was a second group of Chiorboys that came after our voices broke.
Yeah, I
Um,
heard about that. Yeah.
yeah. So there's like a second group of Chiorboys,
They
but
weren't as good as you, though, mate. Don't worry.
look, I'm not going to comment on that. I didn't know those guys, so I can't possibly comment on them as singers or as guys. But I know for a fact that yeah, that kind of fizzled out pretty quickly afterwards. And yeah, we kind of were around for a bit until our voices broke.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy looking back on it. You know, the album that we created is good. It's really
It's good,
decent.
and it's sold. How much? So you say are you a platinum selling artist?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So now,
So
yeah,
how
we
many
sold.
albums? Just for the people we know, how many albums you sell to be a platinum artist?
It's like 325,000, something like that. So
Really?
we sold, I think maybe as of like I don't know, maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago. I think I asked someone randomly how many we'd sold, and it was definitely 300 and something thousand. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's more than that now.
Huge.
Yeah, it's pretty big. I mean, obviously, like 20 years ago, 100K in a week is like ridiculous. So it was always going to sell less and less and less as time went on. But yeah, to get to that and become platinum selling, I think we were double platinum maybe. I don't even know.
Like, that's like a massive. Like most people would like that would be their dream for their whole life, and you done it at such an early age. So like,
yeah.
It must have been pretty mad to be a platinum artist.
Yeah, the whole thing was mental, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So obviously, in terms of when you went to school, so I'm assuming you went to school at the time, yeah. So did people constantly go, "Oh my God, you're the choir boy"?
Do you know what? It wasn't great to be honest at first because so I missed quite a bit of school in the years that I was in the Chiorboys because I was always out doing random things, and we didn't get tutors. Yeah. The record label didn't provide us with tutors or anything, so we went to school whenever we could. And to be honest, I don't remember ever studying whilst I was kind of.
Do you think the record label done enough for you in terms of like your education and stuff like that?
Great question, mate. Like, I'm not going to say anything about that because I'm not signed to anybody or anything. And I also don't want to sound like somebody professional about it. But I don't remember having someone there as a tutor to tutor us. And normally when people like footballers or whatever, people they have tutors, they have like special circumstances for schooling and whatever. And I don't remember getting that.
So do you, obviously, in terms of the record label, did they give you any aftercare when you left? Talk to you about when you left the Chiorboys. Like what happened? Obviously, when your voices broke. How old was you when that happened?
I was like 13, I think, like 13 and a half, something like that. So yeah.
What can you remember? Like your last day together? Like, can you remember that?
I seem to remember like the last time we sang together ever. Yeah, so. I remember my voice starting to kind of break. You can always tell, like your voice, like was starting to break.
I was in a school choir as well, by the way. Just like
okay, cool, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So wait, as a boy or like after?
I was about 12 when I joined 11 or 12.
Sweet.
So
okay.
I went to state school and then I joined a private school when I was about 12.
Okay.
And obviously in the state school, if you win the school choir, you probably get bullied. But in the choir at the private school, if you weren't in the choir, people would take the piss, kind of thing. So people, if you weren't in the choir, people would look down at you. So I went to an audition. It was me and two other guys. I started singing, and the lady went to me, "Oh my God, your voice is so brilliant. Do you want to be in the school choir?" I was like, "Yeah, okay, give it a go," kind of thing. Yeah. So that's what I know. I was in the choir for about 2 years after that, and obviously sung in front of a lot of people. Yeah. So that's why there's a connection between me and you.
Fine. Okay. So cool.
I'll kind of emphasise with you a little bit on that one.
Yeah. No. Exactly. And is that something that you've kind of enjoyed doing since then, or did you stop singing when your voice broke?
I enjoyed it, but like I didn't realise how much I like singing because I've done that and obviously well, I was at state school before and I was like it's kind of embarrassing kind of thing. I didn't really like singing in front of people,
Yeah.
but at the time I really enjoyed it and even now, okay, I don't do anything. The only thing I do now is probably karaoke down the pub on a Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
which is
even then, I really enjoy. I do enjoy singing. I can't deny it. I do love singing.
yeah, no, singing is good. Singing is good. I mean, and was there any particular like music when you were singing in the choir that you enjoyed, or was it just anything like just singing
We
in
sung a
general?
lot of stuff that you sung as well. To be fair,
Okay.
Tears in Heaven we sung.
Okay, cool.
We sung that. Walking in the Air.
Yeah.
A lot of that, and there was also stuff that we sung. I sung actually. I remember the biggest crowd I sung in. We went to up from Portsmouth, so I went to Portsmouth Guildhall.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Sing in front of like a in front. It was a packed Portsmouth Guildhall. I remember it because I wasn't expecting the amount of people in the crowd.
Cool.
Obviously, the curtain drew and it
Yeah.
was absolutely packed. And it was packed with people. Oh my god! Like I've sung in front of like thousands of people.
It's
So
cool.
that was cool. So yeah, that's the biggest I've got. Obviously not as big as you, but yeah.
I don't know. It's still big. It's still good. I mean,
What's your biggest crowd that you've ever like? What would you say was like your biggest performance you've ever done live?
well, the biggest performance I ever did live was when we were in Japan, and it wasn't like because of the number of people like physically in front of me, but we were on a TV channel, and I remember us kind of turning up to this studio, and we'd learnt a song in Japanese for this Japanese
Really?
studio, yeah, and we went and sang that, and then we sang Tears in Heaven, and before we went on, they said, just to let you know, the current audience right now listening to you is 14 million.
Fucking hell! Really?
Yeah. So that was intense.
Wow! Oh my god, man, that's crazy.
That was not. I remember that. That was crazy. That was nuts.
So like yeah, that obviously yeah, you've had an unbelievable life like yeah, for your childhood as well. Like, did you think you ever had a normal childhood? Like in terms of me, like I come home from school, I'll go out with my friends. Like with you, it's probably more intense with you. Like, did you really get like a good childhood?
I said I had a great childhood in the sense that
Yeah.
between like the choir boys times, that was super weird. That was not normal at all. But
No,
you
definitely
know,
not for anyone.
but the thing is, when my voice broke, like everything just stopped. There was no more. There was obviously people that like wanted to speak to me and interview me and stuff like that, and there was like the weirdness around school and people that had heard of the choir boys. That was really weird. But there was
Yeah.
no. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't in the limelight anymore. My voice had broken. I wasn't famous anymore. Like I was famous, but I wasn't
Yeah.
famous because I wasn't going on TV.
Was it
or
was it
anything like
hard for you to take at the time?
that. No, because I didn't let it define me. Like I didn't let the fact that I was doing random things on TV or like doing gigs or anything like that become. I didn't want to put myself forward as someone that was known for doing that. Like I just wanted to be myself, and therefore, like I never. When it stopped, I was still myself. I was still doing things, but people treated me differently. Like people definitely treat you differently if you've done something like that. Like you asked me a question about 10 minutes ago, saying how are people at school, and I went from no one knowing me at all. I was just one of the guys that was in the choir. That people were like, oh, he's in the choir, whatever. To then me doing like stuff on like TV and whatever, and
Mhm.
people seeing it in the papers and people knowing that I was, in the choir boys, and then people did bully me mercilessly like for years,
Really?
like for probably 2 3 4 years, until people then realized actually no, this guy's not an idiot, this guy's just a nice guy. So then people kind of
Yeah. Well,
laid off.
do people think he's some stuck up little choir boy kind of
Yeah,
thing? But
100%. And I mean,
yeah,
I was probably like, in my own right, I was probably like a teenage boy. There were parts of me where I was just like trying to act out because people were being idiots or people were treating me differently. And I was probably a bit of a dick to some people, if they were
yeah,
like constantly bullying me. But I genuinely didn't let any of the sort of stuff that I've been doing change who I was. So I think only
good for
people
you,
only
man.
start to realize I was actually just like a nice guy or just a normal
Yeah,
person, like after it died down after a couple of years, because for a long time, people used to just use it as a way to either make themselves popular by associating with me and thinking they'd get popular because they might, somehow manage to find some sort of fame or whatever, or they tried to look cool by bullying the person that had been in the limelight, sort of thing. So it like there wasn't really.
It's a catch street, isn't it? So obviously people want to hang out with you to be like pally with you, and obviously people want to like dig at you to make it look good. So, like the friends you had back then, are they different to the friends you had now?
Well, I mean, I'll be straight up. Like, I don't tend to keep people that like. I have a fiance. I'm engaged currently, and me and her. Yeah, thanks, mate. Me and her keep like quite a tight, like, friendship circle. I mean, myself as a person, I find it fairly hard trusting people because I feel like, sometimes people just want to use you to, like, goes back to the Chiorboys. People want to use you either to make you look bad and make themselves feel better, or people just kind of don't care about you and they'll just walk all over you. So I've found in the past that the best way just to sort that out is just to be your own person, work hard for yourself, and then you'll get there yourself. Which is hard because sometimes you probably would make more progress by being friends with a load of people and like having a good friendship group and being able to do loads of stuff. But
that's it for me. Even the same to me. I had a lot of friends when I was at school, and then you leave school when you're like 16. Now I'm 26. 10 years later on, like my friendship circle was like shrunk so much. But I think that's because you cut a lot of people out of your life who you think aren't really true friends or aren't trustworthy. And you find the older you get, the smaller your friendship circle is.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a bad thing either.
No, I don't either. I mean, I think, like, in terms of the way I see things, is that people become more and more of their true selves the older they are because they feel accepted and they feel they can be who they want to be. And I feel like people, when they leave school for the first time, they're not seeing someone like 3, 4, 5 times a day in the corridors at school or hanging out with them in every class. For the first time when they go to university or college or whatever, they have to be their own person and they have to stand up and like be who they want to be. Some people, put on a persona of who they want to be and they change completely. Like, you'll see your friends changing. Other people, will, stick by you and will look out for you. But what I found was, other people, like, I just looked down my friends list, like, because when I was in the Chiorboys, loads of people would like add me on Facebook or whatever, and loads and loads of people, and there'd be people that give me abuse or whatever, and there'd be people that would just want to add me so they could be friends with me or something like that. And I remember, like, there was a point where maybe first when Facebook came out, I had like maybe close to 2,000 people friends on Facebook, not loads, but like a lot for that time, and a lot more than other people.
Yeah, a lot.
And I remember just looking at it and being like, have I ever heard from any of these people? Do these people ever message me, like, just to have a conversation, like, just genuinely concerned or like asking me about me and wanting to know me? And I thought, no, like, are these people just wanting to come to me when they want to gain something? Or are they people that I will never see again and I will never kind of come into contact with again? And like, I just thought, yeah, like, no, most of these people just aren't bothered about me as a person. So why keep them in my circle, sort of thing? So I just got rid of loads of people on Facebook. Like, a lot of people will do it nowadays. When you're at uni or after uni, people do just kind of tend to think, actually, do I need this many friends on Facebook? Do I need this validation from other people?
Same as me. I deleted I've deleted Facebook and Twitter because, one, I spent too much time on it, and two, like, especially with the pandemic, you got so many people's opinions about politics, about the pandemic and stuff like that. So I spend too much time on it, and it influences the way I think. I've got Instagram still. Obviously, I'll still speak to you on it. Yeah. But, that's enough for me, and I'm happy with that. Having a private account, I'm cool with that. That's probably the best thing I did, actually, was deleting a lot of social media.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it means that you're not kind of having to kind of take in so much of what other people are trying to kind of force upon you. It does mean, it does mean that you kind of do miss out on like news that you might otherwise hear. But the main thing is that I think, as long as you have an open, like, as people in general, not you obviously, but like, as long as everyone has like an open mind to listen to other people's opinions and just listen to what they have to say and make them feel like, valued and stuff, I think that's the main thing. And I just think when kids are growing up, and this is particularly important in the Chiorboys case, I think when people are growing up, kids don't really think about the feelings of other people. They're just kind of ruthless. And you see it nowadays, young people are ruthless, and sometimes it can be super affecting.
So imagine if the Choir Boys became famous in 2020 today,
That's a
with the
great
whole
question.
social media thing.
That's a great question. That's a great question because the thing is, if right now, like the Choir Boys happened right now and it became famous right now, you got to
Oh,
think
it'll blow
like,
up like
would,
it'll blow
would,
up like tenfold.
yeah, you say that, mate, but you got to think like, would we all be on Facebook and like, be on like all these different things and promoting ourselves and promoting, yeah, probably, but at the same time, would we have the abuse, like the levels of abuse
Oh,
of the young
that's it.
people, the same as people that are like on social media, like with Love
Exactly.
Island
So back
or
then there wasn't any of that. So now, like, obviously with Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and that people can literally abuse you from the
yeah,
comfort of their own home from their mobile.
yeah.
So back then we had NSN, but obviously I was probably a bit too young for that at the time. So it was really hard to make them kind of comments. But now it's so easy to like give abuse to people now.
Yeah,
So obviously that could have gone either way for you.
100%. I mean, it would have been hilarious kind of to see how big it could have got. I think back then,
It would have
because,
got bigger. I think it would have got bigger.
yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe it would have sold more, maybe because with social media and that sort of stuff, what I would say is most of our audience was people that were older. Like, I'll be straight up, people like who were interested in choirs, interested in choir boys, like interested in that style of music and stuff. And I feel like, they were the people that were buying our album. It wasn't young people. The only reason young people ever heard of us is because their parents were playing it or they heard it on the TV.
Almost because of the advert on TV.
Yeah, exactly, the TV. So, I mean, that's why young people heard of it. But more often than not, because it was different. It was really different to what a lot of other young people were experiencing in their lives. I think that's why, like, we got quite a lot of abuse in that sense because it was just like what at the time was regarded as being like, not normal, like super weird and like, yeah,
Yeah.
gay. People used to say like it's just not normal, and you know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But I think nowadays with social media, it would probably be a little bit more open to some degree. But again, we would probably be more yeah, we would be more open to kind of trolling as well, I guess.
Yeah, I think it would have been a different kettle of fish at the time. Yeah, like maybe it could have worked out well for you. Could have sold more albums, but also there would have been the element of you could have set more
Yeah,
views. Like it wouldn't have done good to you at such a young age. Receiving that amount of abuse.
I think
But
what I was going to say is like with the choir boys, because we were labeled as the choir boys, I feel like as soon as our voices broke, and this is kind of touching on a question you said earlier, do you think you got the right aftercare? I personally feel like as soon as our voices broke and the choir
I
boys finished being the choir boys, then we didn't like it wasn't as if they were like, right, okay, do you want to carry on singing and we'll help you with that and we'll kind of help you to maybe then like release another album in the future, like the Choir Men or something like that, or didn't when your voices are settled again.
that could have been a great aspect. To be fair.
I mean that's the sort of thing where you'd think, yeah, there could be money to be made here, like follow this up, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Because
people
you
have
have such a
followed
good
that.
following at a young age, so people would have stuck by you and heard your names. So like
Exactly.
in maybe 10 years after that, you could have released another album, people would still know who you are.
Well, it's only just gone past 10 years after that, so people kind of would know who we
Yeah,
are to some degree. But
exactly. Yeah, that would have been a good idea in my opinion.
yeah, I mean, I can still sing, like definitely can still sing, and I can definitely, I would definitely still sing professionally, like as a career, like that's no lie. Like I would do it in a heartbeat because that's the thing I love to do. I love to sing, and I think my
Exactly.
talent, my like raw talent, is in singing 100%. But at the end of the day, there isn't that appetite there for it. Otherwise, there'd be loads of people who were world famous who were classical singers or singers that sang that sort of thing, and I feel like yeah, I don't know. I just feel like unfortunately, classical music is not sexy. People don't listen to it and they're like, this is what
Yeah.
gets me going. People listen to other styles of music to relax. People listen to a lot of other things. And I love classical music. Classical music is the thing I
I
find the
love
most
classical
relaxing.
music,
It
mate.
helps me
I'm
relax.
gonna
Yeah,
trust you. I love it.
a lot of people do like classical music. Um, but the mainstream people that are tending to buy albums, people that are on the internet, people that are driving social media and everything,
Yeah.
they don't listen to classical music.
Yeah, it's a shame, man, because I actually enjoy it. For one,
Exactly.
and yeah. So another thing I want to talk to him about is So in terms of like the revenue from the album and all that, like, are you set up now? Do you live with your parents, or have you got your own place?
No. Yeah, me and my partner we live in a small semi-detached house,
Yeah.
and yeah, we live together. I don't live with my parents, so away, yeah, independent and stuff like that, and yeah, just kind of
So that
grind.
did the Chiorboys help pay for the your first property?
No. So that's just kind of funded, yeah, through ourselves. Currently, we're renting because we're waiting for the right time to buy, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm saving for a deposit as well. I'm back with my parents now. I'm saving
okay,
for a deposit. So,
sure.
yeah, I know it's tough out there at the moment.
So what do
So,
you do? Like, what do you do, and like, what's your job? What's your situation?
so I work in engineering, manufacturing.
Okay,
So,
nice.
yeah, I was working in sales for an engineering company
Yep.
before I went to Australia. Then I went to Australia for a year, just basically to travel, basically have a bit of fun.
Yep.
Came back, and then obviously I came back at the peak of the pandemic. So
Okay.
there was no jobs. I was on the dole,
Okay.
believe it or not. I was on the dole for a couple of months.
Sure.
I've had a really shit year. It's been
Okay.
terrible. It's probably been the worst year of my life,
Right.
considering in Australia I had a really good life. I had a girlfriend out there. I
Okay.
lived in a beautiful house. It was on really good money. Then to come back to the UK with nothing, no job, being on the dole was really tough. I'm not gonna lie, man. I've had a tough year.
Yeah.
So,
So
but
what?
now things are starting to pick up now, so which is good.
Good. I'm glad. That's good to hear. I mean, why did you decide to come back? You know, if you were set up there.
It was on unfortunately, only 1 year visa. If
Right.
you're under 30, you can go to Australia for 1 year and work out there.
Oh, sure. Okay.
If you do 3 months of agricultural work, you can stay for another year. I didn't
Okay.
do that. So my idea was just to go for 1 year.
Okay.
I got offered to stay out there. I was going to get sponsored to stay out there, but I didn't. I came back, and that's my girlfriend out is Japanese.
Okay.
So I was planning to go out there, but obviously because of the coronavirus, I can't go out there. So
Sure.
the plan was to go and live there. Was going to live with her for a little bit.
Yeah.
Being really good, but unfortunately that's not what's happened.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So in terms of like your podcast and stuff, I mean, who else have you had on, and like who else do you have plans to have on? I mean, what's it focused on?
So I've had one person before you, and that was when I was in Australia. So I started it about a year ago, my podcast channel, and it was
It's on YouTube. Is that right? It's on YouTube or?
yeah, YouTube. This will be on YouTube. Our one now.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
I've done one before, and it was about when I was traveling to Australia. I thought you meet a lot of strange and wonderful people when you go traveling from all around the world.
Yeah.
My best friend was actually an Israeli guy. He was in the he served in the army for Israel.
Right. Cool.
So I got him on there. Like he done it just out of love, really.
Yeah.
And it was really good. Yeah, it was really good interview. It lasted like an hour.
Nice.
We got drinking at the same time, and it's good. And I thought I really enjoy it, so I want to get some people on that are famous, got a good story to tell.
Yeah. Sure.
That's where it came from. So when I came back to UK, it was supposed to take off a lot more, but obviously because of lockdown, it's not possible. Normally I would have probably come to you now. I would have sat with microphones at your house or somewhere new.
Yeah.
Podcast, and it would have been really good. Have a few drinks. It would have been good. But we have to
We
do
can
it
do that again. We can do that
Yeah.
again. You know, we can have a follow up or something in the future, definitely. And discuss things in further detail.
Even we can like address them as well. If people got, because sometimes people got comments on the video.
That's great. Yeah, that'd be good.
Follow up. If I come to Yorkshire, are we going for a beer together?
100%. Yeah, we can do that. No problem.
Whereabouts in Yorkshire are you?
So I live just outside Leeds, basically.
Hey, my university there.
Hey.
In Leeds, my little brother goes to uni in Leeds.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I went to University of Leeds as well.
Yeah. What did you study?
Music. Funnily enough.
I think he's doing electrical engineering. He's like super intelligent.
Yeah, cool.
So actually that's a good excuse. So when I go to visit him in Leeds, I'll come down I'll come and visit you, yeah?
Yeah.
We'll go for a beer.
100%. Let's do that.
That sounds good. Okay. And then finally, like obviously it's a little bit of a sensitive subject, obviously. Most people don't know the lead singer. Is one of the lead singers of one of the three pieces of the Chiorboys? His name is Patrick. He's a blonde guy in the videos. Tragically took his own life in 2016. So how did you hear about it, and where was you when you found out?
Yeah, so I was actually on a train, which was even worse because obviously of the way Patrick took his life. Um, I was on a train when I heard the news. I actually heard from CJ, who was obviously the other member of the group, and he mentioned to me obviously what had happened. And I think Patrick's family had been in touch with CJ's family, and CJ had found out, and he let me know. And yeah, it was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. I didn't expect it at all. I didn't, it just came out of the blue, and it just completely hit me.
When was the last time you spoke to Patrick before the incident?
It was on Facebook Messenger. I can't remember like the exact date or the time or anything like
Yeah.
that, but for a while, after the Choir Boys finished, Patrick would message me. Yeah, he'd message me on Facebook and stuff, and just to kind of
Mm.
chat about stuff. And yeah, I remember just chatting to him on there, and we hadn't talked for a couple of years. When he did end up taking his life, but you know, we
Was,
yeah,
was you and Patrick very different people?
we're different. I wouldn't say we were. Like I'd say we both had a lot of energy. We both we loved sports. Like we loved football. Patrick was really good at football. Like I remember like when we first met, he was really good at football. He was really passionate. He had a lot. He had so much energy and stuff, and um, he had a great voice as well. Obviously, he had a nice voice.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And yeah, it's one of those things where the Choir Boys was so unique and so intense in so many ways that it was something that I'll never forget. And also because we shared it, Patrick, CJ, and myself, we shared that together. That's something that no one can take away from us, and
No.
that none of us will ever forget. Because it was something that no one really had done before. Like three choir
It's
boys in a
unique.
little
Yeah,
group.
it's
It
unique.
was it's super unique, and people enjoyed it. And what happened was a crazy journey that defined us for so many years, and it was
They're
really
they're like your brothers basically in a way. Like that was the experience you went through
yeah
together.
exactly
Like
like
that's like it's like an unbreakable bond.
if I met CJ now, I've not seen him for probably the best part of 10 years, maybe even longer than that. Like I haven't seen him in a long time, but if I met CJ today, we would have a connection because of the thing
Exactly.
we
Yeah.
went through when
Yeah.
we were young. Like there's no doubt
Yeah.
about that. Anyone that goes through anything like that, and it's the same with loads of different people that experience certain things together. It doesn't matter if you haven't seen them for 10, 20, 30 years, you'll still have that memory, when something happened. And that's the
Yeah.
way I feel about it.
The same as if you went to like junior school with someone and if you're really good friends with them and like you went to a different senior school, haven't seen them in a long time. If you met up with them, there will always be a conversation there to have.
Yeah, you have experiences and memories that you can kind of relive and talk about.
Yeah.
And you know, um, it's just stuff that no one can take away from you because only you guys have those experiences together.
Yeah. Is there anything like you want to say about like obviously Patrick? Have you got anything like to say about like mental health and stuff like that and how important it is? Because I know he was struggling. Did you
Yeah.
have any signs that he was struggling? Did you know? Did you have any like knowledge of that?
Did I know he was
Did you
struggling?
get
Like,
any?
I mean, it's hard to talk about. Basically, I
Yeah.
feel like whether or not the Choir Boys had any part in what happened with Patrick, I don't know. I literally do not
Well,
know.
that's
I
yeah.
don't. I don't know. I mean, I personally feel like in terms of mental health stuff, it probably didn't help. My
I don't
own
think
like,
so.
I would say I'm a massive advocate of mental health in the sense that if people ever feel like they need someone to talk to or need like someone to bounce off, they should never feel like they can't go and speak to someone. There should always be that circle around you, or at least like the resources for someone to go and get help or speak to someone, or have a friend that they can confide in, or at least like
Yeah.
put their thoughts through. And it's so sad when you hear of stories when people feel like they can't speak to anybody, or that they
Therefore, that's the only option for them. Like,
exactly, yeah,
imagine being the only option they have is like the only way for me out is taking my own life. That must be a really
yeah.
dark thought.
Exactly, 100%. And the thing is, unless you've had those dark thoughts, you can never truly comprehend what those thoughts are like. And you can't necessarily give that the right advice or the advice that might be able to help somebody. All you can do is offer an ear and really help, and potentially try and kind of raise awareness of mental health. I mean, you obviously messaged me on Instagram, which is where I have like a link to a YouTube channel that I kind of run right now, and it's just stuff where I sing, occasionally, and record music of me singing, and then kind of upload it to YouTube. And I mean, some people listen to it, some people don't, but at the end of the day, the channel is set up to carry on singing purely because I want to honor Patrick's memory. And, because we spent so many intense, experiences together and everything like that, I think, he was a massive part of the success of the band. He was also, someone I spent a lot of time with, a lot of time at a young age, not for a number of years, but a lot of time within the time we did spend together. And I feel like he is a part of me. Like, there's a part of me that, owes where I am today to Patrick, because, I don't think he made me who I am, but I think we were both formed by the experiences we had. And I think that as a result of that, I owe it to him, and I owe it to other people who feel like they're in a dark place to try and raise awareness of mental health. And like, I'm no longer in the public eye. Like, I'm no longer getting asked to do loads of interviews or asked to do. Obviously, we're on a podcast, that's different, But we are kind of, like, I'm no longer in a position where if I were massively famous and had loads of followers on something, I could tweet out to them or put a post out and loads of people would see it and I'd influence them. But what I can do is record music, and the people that were interested in the Chiorboys or have heard about Patrick or anything like that, if they're researching that or they've found us and randomly like the music or whatever, I've put something online where people can just listen to music and just be free from worries and try.
And also, they can listen to this podcast and that'll answer a lot of their questions that they already had in their head.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I feel like, I feel like, Patrick was an amazing person, and, I wish I had kind of spoken to him more, after the Chiorboys and spent more time.
Was he from Essex? Is that right?
Yeah, he's from Essex. He was from Essex, and we were just in different parts of the country, so unfortunately,
it's tough. Yeah.
But the message I would have is that if anyone is struggling ever, please speak to somebody. Please, if you can, find someone that you trust enough to be able to talk through these things with, if it's a relative or a friend, or even if even if it's something that you don't want to speak about, find a helpline or something like that. On the Twitter account that I set up, one of the pinned posts is like a list of different charities that aim to help people with mental health, difficulties, and there are hotlines and stuff like that there. So if people want to check those out, they can.
Good, man. So before we wrap it up, is there anything else you want to mention?
I would like to just say, thank you for asking me to do this. I really appreciate this.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you coming on.
It's been a long time since obviously I've done anything really in the public eye, like properly. So I appreciate you reaching out, because you didn't have to at all. So I'm pleased that you're kind of interested in my story. I would like to say thanks for everyone for listening. I hope if there's anything you take from this, it's that just to be yourself, enjoy what you do in life. Like, obviously, I'd like to say hopefully the podcast takes off, because you've been
hopefully you got to share it on your platform as well.
I will do 100%. I will do. So just send me the link and I'll share it 100%.
Okay, well, I'm going to stop recording right now. We'll have a quick chat after. Okay, all right.